Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. Got to be honest, not many of us in the press are looking forward to the 2020 Democratic primary. Just hours ago, it felt like it was going to be an exhausting, miserable affair. The current field is a mixture of fossils, extremists, and power-hungry cynics willing to say anything and hurt anybody to get a hold on the White House. But things have changed. A new candidate has entered the race, a man untethered from the old ways, possibly even from the conventional restrictions of physics, time and space. More a spiritual force than a temporal leader, more a poet than a politician. Ladies and gentlemen, the author of our redemption, Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke, the social media phenom.
Despite his loss to Ted Cruz, the rock and roll loving 46-year-old caught the nation's attention. His offbeat social media posts appealing to a younger generation, even taking us skateboarding at Whataburger. His Senate candidacy winning the endorsement of celebrities like Beyonce.
Beto loves rock and roll, says GMA. He's not like everyone else. He doesn't do stuffy speeches or policy programs. He's not going to bore you with entitlement projections or some scary stuff about the Korean Peninsula. Beto's got a skateboard and wears Nirvana t-shirts. His vision for this country is 1995. That was the year he was living way uptown in this walk-up and working as a manny and knew this dude on West 112th Street with some of the stickiest bud in Manhattan. Indica. A little heavy, but sweet. It was a good time. Beto wants to bring us back to that time, and the press is totally on board.
I saw him for the first time just a month ago when he sat down with Oprah, and me and the rest of the people in the audience thought, wow, this guy has this dynamic, positive energy.
Yeah, he has that raw talent. He is very kind of Obama-esque indeed. The women voted for him in the suburbs of Houston who hadn't voted Democrat before because they had a kind of Beto crush going on.
You know, he's wholesome and he's earnest.
He's got that magic dust. Of course his son is named Ulysses. I love that that's his son's name.
He has that gleam in his eye. Somebody, Evan Smith at the Texas Tribune said seeing him is like, it's like a Jesus Christ superstar seeing this guy in front of people. He's got that celebrity aura about him. And in that moment, he was owning that.
You heard it. Beto's got that magic dust. Oh, yeah, he does. At least an 8-ball. Though the guy on 112th Street has more if you need it. Beto's got great hair, too. Beat that combo. Actual voting doesn't begin for months, but Beto is already America's spiritual president. And by the way, that's a much cleaner way to run for office. Real elections, the ones with voters, sometimes end like this.
So we have quite a bit of big news to report. We can call now that the Texas race will go to Ted Cruz, the incumbent Republican.
That Ted Cruz win over Beto O'Rourke, significant.
Well, that election was a bummer. So Beto split soon after on a solo road trip. It was a whole me and you and a dog named Boo kind of thing. The sort of trip that Kerouac or Steinbeck would have taken. Just the hum of the engine and the black ribbon of the open road. A time to feed the soul. Also a time to stage a series of publicity shots for Snapchat and Instagram while simultaneously blogging the whole thing. Timeless stuff. An all-American redemption story. Beto came back a better man. He understood the running for president thing was not for him.
Is there a scenario where you run for president in 2020 or beyond?
No.
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 Unequivocally, you will never run for president.
No punto. No period.
No punto, baby. Down on the border where the people are authentic and speak various languages at once. That means, yes, I am running for president just as soon as I can hire a staff of consultants and line up some billionaires to fund it. But for now, I will lie about my plans. And that's exactly what Beto did. And so here we are in the age of Beto. What's the plan, man? What are we doing? What's next? Well, what's next, Beto says, is understanding that the things that we think of as terrifying threats to the country are actually perfectly cool. Like more than 20 million people using fake identities to live illegally inside the United States. That's not a problem. That's the best, man.
All of us, wherever you live, can acknowledge that if immigration is a problem, it's the best possible problem for this country to have.
Yeah. It's the best problem. Hard to think of a better problem. Illegal immigration is such a cool problem to have. We ought to have more. Let's knock down the border walls, dude.
If you could, would you take the wall down now? Here.
Yes.
Like you have a wall.
Absolutely.
Knock it down.
I'd take the wall down.
And do you think the city, if there's a referendum here in this city, that would pass?
I do.
Yeah, it's fine. But that's not to say Beto doesn't see problems on the horizon. He does. And when he does, his dough brown eyes cloud a little, and he stares off into the distance to consider a holistic solution, just like James Dean would have done if he had lived to be Beto's age and could skateboard. Beto says global warming is a major bummer. Global warming could make us go extinct, like the dinosaurs in the museums, man, dead forever.
Some will criticize the Green New Deal for being too bold or being unmanageable. But I tell you what, I haven't seen anything better that addresses this singular crisis that we face, a crisis that could, at its worst, lead to extinction.
Extinction. That's what Beto's fighting against. What else is he for? Well, it's a fair question, but honestly, it's not really clear. We checked his campaign website. There's a picture there that says Beto for America in English. The one in Spanish says Beto for all. We couldn't find any actual policies, even about fighting extinction. We did find a sweet Beto tote bag, just $30, and you don't even have to pledge to NPR to get it, though you probably already have. You ought to get one. It's awesome. Chris Plante hosts the Chris Plante Show. He joins us tonight. So, Chris, rather than ask you the conventional political questions about who's up, who's down in this race, I want to do a very quick quiz, because it's Thursday, and it's called Stoned 10th Grader or Beto. And I'm going to read you a couple quotes, and you tell me where this one came from. Stoned 10th Grader or Beto. Here's the first one, and I'm quoting now. I'm going to take my sweater off, and it's not because he asked about marijuana. Who said that?
I'm going to go with Beto on that.
Ah! There's a reason you won Jeopardy. Yes, Beto. Okay, here's the second. When I was 6 and 7 years old, I didn't know I wasn't a Mexican.
I'm going to go with Beto on that one, too.
Man, okay, you're right again. Okay, here's the last one, and I'm quoting. I don't know if it's a speech or not, but it felt amazing because every word was pulled out of me like by some greater force, which was just the people there. Everything that I said, I was like watching myself, being like, how am I saying this stuff? Where's this coming from? Is that a stoned 10th grader or Beto?
Can I combine the two and make it a stoned 46-year-old?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Si se puede, you might say.
Answer.
Exactly. That's so good. So obviously this is a campaign micro-targeted at morning shows on the other channels. I mean, I get that, to the media class. But who else might be taken by this candidacy?
Well, he has all the qualities, as you described there, to be a DJ on an MTV show or to win The Bachelor and get a rose and win the date or whatever it is they win on those shows. But now the process we have is instead of winning a rose and getting a date at the end, you get the White House. And that's basically what this is. It's a game show. And Beto is the hero, as you said, of the morning shows. He was called a rock star at least twice. I was only watching for a little while on CNN this morning. Rock star. And they couldn't be more excited. They were giddy, and they didn't bring up anything. There is nothing discouraging or critical that you can say of Beto. He is nearly perfect. He's going to prevent the secular apocalypse, which looms large in everyone's mind. I know we have 12 years. Have you noticed that we have a 12-year countdown clock, but the countdown clock never starts counting down? That they keep using the 12-year, and they're going to keep using it for years and years. 6 years from now, we're still going to have 12 years, and that's their timeline for saving us from ourselves, from the dreaded secular apocalypse. He was today. Some of the audio I played of him today, he's talking about countries where people now live, which will soon be underwater and will be uninhabitable, and hundreds of millions of refugees are going to flood to us, and we better take them in and learn their languages and do whatever. Barack Obama claimed he would slow the rise of the oceans. I think that Beto's claims are much more grandiose than Obama's.
Can I ask you a non-Beto? I just cannot resist, since you've been in the media for so long and you know it so well. Linguists have shown that the use of cliches is a marker for low IQ. Dumb people speak entirely in cliches. What does it tell you that almost every political reporter uses the same cliches every 4 years? He's a rock star.
Is
there
amazing.
No original language allowed in political coverage ever?
The reporters and more the candidates are using the same bumper sticker language and brief, keep it to the point, keep it simple, stupid, hope and change. Today there was no hope and change. It was all horror and apocalypse and we're all going to die. It was the most uninspiring and uninspired message I'd ever heard from a presidential candidate in the United States in their first day running. It was grim and glum. And, the woman you had on a couple of nights ago who doesn't want to have children, That's because she was listening to people like Beto O'Rourke, and we're all going to die. It's
totally
utterly
true.
apocalyptic. And if that's an inspiring message for the Democrat Party in 2020, then hello, President Trump's second term.
So I got to make a correction. Apparently, we just got a call in the control room, and we made a mistake. The quote, "When I was 6 or 7, I didn't know that I wasn't a Mexican," is not from Beto. It's from Beto's dad.
Oh.
And it's not from a stoned 10th grader either.
Well,
True
his
fact,
father.
apparently. I just heard that in my ear, so I'd like to apologize and correct.
Well, Beto's father was a big He's changed parties, Beto's father. He's changed parties. He's now a Republican, apparently, but he did campaign for Jesse Jackson for president repeatedly. And his father used to be, maybe he put down the bong, too. I don't know. But now I read, at least, that you can't believe everything you read, that he's come over to the bright side.
Interesting. We're going to have to drug test at some point for candidates. Chris, thanks very much. Good to see you.
Thanks, Tucker.
David Tafuri is a lawyer, a former advisor to Barack Obama's presidential campaign, and he joins us tonight to assess this new addition to the Democratic primary field. Great to see you, David. So if you could summarize the skateboard candidacy of Beto O'Rourke, how would you?
Well, I'd say on the behalf of the Republicans, it's fear, because you just spent 10 minutes being sarcastic about Beto O'Rourke, as did Chris. You guys are pretty funny. You came up with some good attacks on him, and I think those are some of the attacks the Republicans will use.
It was easy.
But you know, there's a super PAC in Iowa, Fund for Growth, that's already put up ads against Beto. They started last week before he even declared for president. That's because Republicans are scared of him as a candidate. Now, why are they scared? Number one reason is because he ran for Senate in Texas, which is a red state.
Wait,
and he
can I
almost
just pause
won.
really quick and say, if Republicans are afraid of him, that means that he's harmless. I mean, Republicans also thought Jeb Bush was going to be the nominee. So Republican consensus is almost never right in politics. That's not a good marker. But tell me why you think he's a great candidate. He just lost the Senate race.
As I was saying, you know, he almost won in a super red state, Texas. That means he can bring over independent voters to vote for him. No other candidate on the Democratic side has been able to show that they can do that in a red state, statewide. He also is a prodigious fundraiser. He raised $70 million for his Senate campaign. That's a record. No other candidate for Senate on either side of the aisle has ever raised that much money. That makes him a formidable candidate. Now, he doesn't have a full
so
platform
he's got the
of
billionaire
issues
class
yet.
behind him. Okay.
He doesn't have a full
Can I ask
platform
why,
of
though?
issues yet.
Well, he doesn't have. He has got a tote bag and some talk about extinction, but he doesn't have really a platform at all. And so, why would you announce for president before coming up with answers to the most basic questions about where the country should go?
Well, it's a good question, and I think it's a strength and a weakness for him. I mean, obviously, the weakness is he doesn't have a full platform of things he can run on, though he was a congressman for 6 years, and he did vote on lots of different legislation. But he has to now build his platform, but it can be purpose-built for 2020, aimed at the center. He's a moderate Democrat, so he can distinguish himself from the left-wing part of the party. He's going to distinguish himself from Bernie Sanders and from Elizabeth Warren, and he's going to go on that track.
No, you're supposed to be defending him, and now you're attacking him. You just said he would build his platform purpose-built for this election. In other words, he would be whatever he thinks he needs to be. He's totally as hollow as he seems. That's what you're saying.
That's not what I said.
If he believes something, why doesn't he just tell us what it is?
One of the reasons he's appealing is because voters view him as genuine. That's borne out in the election results in the Senate campaign in Texas. That's borne out in the polling as well. So he's going to build an agenda. It's going to be consistent with his own values. What I'm saying is he's not on the record on lots of different issues. So he can build it in a way that's consistent with his own values, but tracks towards the middle of America and shows a serious contrast with President Trump, whose poll numbers are still very low, historically low.
So let me ask you really quick. Oh, I think a Democrat has a shot for sure. But Beto specifically, very quick. He on camera said that we should tear down the border barriers that separate the United States from Mexico. Are you for that?
That's not what he said. He said we should tear down the wall in El Paso, where he is from, because actually the crime rate went up in El Paso after they built the wall. That's a fact.
The city on the other side, that's not, hold on, the city on the other side is one of the most dangerous places in the world.
But not El Paso.
So why would you...
But not El Paso.
Right, because there's a wall between them. Okay,
so
but do you think we should tear down the border wall between El Paso and Juarez? Do you think
I
that?
don't. I do not think we should tear down the wall.
Because it's insane, actually. And everyone thinks
immigration is going to be an important issue for Beto. And what he's going to have to be able to show is that because he's from a border town and he's from a border state and he's been in local government and in Congress, that he knows how to deal with the issue of immigration. He certainly cannot be for open borders. He can't be for open borders because America is not for open borders.
Well,
but he can come up with some reasonable solutions and compromises that all of America would support, that would protect our country, but have a path for legalization for some folks who are here, like the TPS and Dreamers.
I think your average person would say tearing down the wall between El Paso and Juarez is not a mainstream position. I mean, you don't support it. I don't
support it. I agree with you.
But we'll have plenty of time to talk about this as the Beto movement continues, dude. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.